Hi, I'm Tim Zacharias with Cougar USA, and I'm the host of Building Value. On today's episode, we have Sid Morris with HAPJAC. Excited to have him on the show today. We're going to be talking about his experience with MD Anderson, as well as kind of debunking the myths about what a plumber actually does. And Sid will share some advice for some of the people out there that might be thinking about joining an apprenticeship or becoming a plumber in the future.
On Building Value, we go behind the scenes at some of the most iconic buildings in Texas to showcase the incredible people that design, build, and maintain them and their impact on the community.
When you were at MD Anderson, you said you were with the hospital and then moved into the hotel. We talk a little bit about what you were responsible for when you were there, and what was that like day to day?
Well, I first started out as a plumber, and I worked there as a plumber for about a year, and then I was, selected for a supervisor role. So I managed a team of about 10 technicians for, about 5 years, and that was basically planned maintenance as well as shutdowns, as well as build outs and projects. So it was just basically a project management supervisory job, for the hospital. So we'd work with capital planning and we'd work with facilities groups and that, to just make sure that we're managing construction projects as well as managing the day-to-day operation of the hospital. So medical gases and HVAC repair, plumbing repair, electrical, and that. So on my shift, I had a first-class stationary engineer. I had 2 electricians. I had a painter. Had 2 HVAC mechanics, and I had a plumber and some other kind of general middle-of-the-road craftspeople. So yeah, and as the manager of the facilities, it was actually called a director of engineering, and that MD Anderson owns a hotel, and the hotel is exclusively for their cancer patients.
Right.
So I managed the facilities on that for about 3 years, and the last year we were there, we did a capital expansion, a pretty substantial capital expansion, where they did a top to bottom renovation of all guest rooms, replacing all the fan coil units in every guest room, all the plumbing fixtures, completely redid the kitchen, the laboratories, everything else there. So it was about a 15-month expansion, and right as that was winding down, I started as a training coordinator. So yeah, it was great. It was a great learning opportunity. I did a lot of work with Cougar while I was there as well, so they're always a huge support and a huge help to me.
Yeah, imagine you were under the microscope. I mean, that's pretty important building for MD Anderson. I think the last thing they would want is for anything to go wrong in either the hospital or in that hotel where they're holding up the families. So
yeah, the liabilities, and just thinking about the unique, people aren't there because they're on a vacation. People are there because somebody, either they're sick or one of their family members is sick. So just having kind of that understanding of the guest mix versus, because the guest is actually a patient or a family member patient. So a lot of VIP guests there as well. So that was always because MD Anderson's world-renowned, #1 cancer hospital in the world. So you always have, the expectation of somebody coming there with a bit of an entourage and that as well, and how do you manage that? So, but it was good. From my perspective, it was different because I'd never, managed or worked in a hotel in any, in any capacity. So when the leadership team at MD Anderson asked me to, put in for that position, it's leased to Marriott. They have a leasing agreement with Marriott for 20 years. So all of a sudden you're going from, MD Anderson facilities to working for, the Marriott group, which is a completely different, management style and set of expectations and that too. But, the people above me were confident that I would, hopefully do a good job for them, and hopefully I didn't disappoint them. So yeah, it was good. It was a good learning experience.
That's awesome. Yeah, always working in the medical center has all kinds of different challenges. Mm-hmm. So anything that sticks out to you as far as things that you had to do, kind of go above and beyond what you normally might for maintenance there, or for the planned maintenance to make sure everything went smoothly?
Well, I think just looking at the planned maintenance, I think the biggest thing for me, and my takeaway working at MD Anderson, was how important it is to build a team. Not just have a bunch of guys or gals who, this is your job, and everyone's kind of operating individually, but really to try and get everyone's buy-in and everyone's input into driving the mission of MD Anderson, which is obviously it's curing cancer, but our role in curing cancer is making sure that the lights are working, is making sure that we're doing PMs and everything else efficiently and effectively, so that we're resulting in savings to the bottom line. And that's really as a facilities manager, we're not selling anything. All we're doing is managing a process and a system, so that if our guys are identifying PMs that can be changed in frequency, now all of a sudden they can be tasked with doing other things. So our big goal and the matrix that we'd use to judge are we being effective or not is, did we save money year over year and still maintain the same quality? And we were doing that pretty well. We were reducing energy usage, and we were reducing labor costs in a lot of different areas. So for us, that was a huge win, and that was appreciated by the upper management teams as well. So,
Definitely,
yeah.
and the patients and guests, I'm sure.
Patients
as well.
and guests,
Yeah.
absolutely. So.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And you said at the end of that, that's when you transitioned into the teaching at and going more full time with the Local 68.
Yeah, absolutely. That was with the HAPJAC, which is the
Okay.
Houston Area Plumbers Apprenticeship. So yeah, I've been full-time capacity there, part-time capacity for almost 7 years, and full-time capacity because I still teach. So full-time capacity as a coordinator for the last 3.5 years. So yeah.
Awesome.
And that's been a great adventure too. Hopefully making a difference in people's lives in that role as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, now you get to take that experience that you had firsthand and be able to kind of pass that on.
Absolutely.
To others. So I think that's awesome. And in general, I think that plumbers are misunderstood, by the public and what it is a plumber is doing day to day. If you go on Google and you search images for a plumber, you get all these guys with big pipe wrenches and stuff standing next to toilets. So, what is it a plumber is actually doing that a lot of people may not know about?
Well, I think the big thing is just the actual skill set the plumber needs to have to go into any if you call a plumber up and you say, I need you to come and replace my faucet. Okay, ideally the plumber who's showing up, is one of our plumbers, has had 10,000 hours of training. So he knows about medical gases. He knows, how a plumbing system is meant to be designed, why it's designed a certain way. He knows how to do all the repairs. He knows how to solder and braze and troubleshoot. And he has decent customer relations skills, so he can talk. He can speak intelligently, explain problems to customers or to contractors, and that in a way they can understand why, what their issue is and what do they need to do. What does he need to do while he's there to resolve it? So big skills for a plumber really would be, they're going to be lifelong learners. They're going to complete an apprenticeship program. They're going to be versed in every aspect of plumbing, whether that's residential, whether that's commercial, whether that's industrial. It's going to be a person who's can do AutoCAD drawings, can look at blueprints, can understand medical gases and the importance of maintaining integrity in medical gas systems and that as well. He can manage labor costs. He can manage material. So basically, he should be a one-stop shop to be able to do project management or anything that you've tasked him to do, from replacing a toilet or repairing a toilet to managing, ideally $1 million plumbing project. It should be the same guy or gal. So yeah.
Yeah, and I love the poster that you guys have up at the Local 68, and it's got the crowd and the plumber, and it says protecting the health of the nation. And I think that's pretty understated. Thing that
absolutely,
that the plumbers are doing.
You think about it. The one thing that's eradicated, disease spread in the Western world has been indoor plumbing. It's been being able to get rid of waste products and to have clean, safe drinking water. So if those two get taken away, you can live without a lot of things in this world, but you can't live without safe drinking water. And and the way to keep safe drinking water, part of it is to maintain that separation between sewage and potable water systems and that. So, and even the medical gases. Medical gas is huge. As our population ages, more and more of us are going to spend some time in a hospital, or our loved ones are going to spend some time in a hospital. So you want to make sure, you want to be assured that the person who installed the head wall with all the different medical gases did it right, and when they put the oxygen on somebody, that they're not getting something other than oxygen.
Right.
It's huge. We take it for granted because it's buried inside a wall. But if you look at Flint, Michigan, just changing from a clean water source into a dirty pipe, and the result was horrible.
Sure.
And the same thing could happen to any municipality in North America.
Or inside any commercial building.
Inside a commercial building, absolutely. Look at cross connection. You might have the absolute best water protections in place for you, but if the person next door to you doesn't, and it's you're only going to be as clean and as safe as the people on your utility run.
Right.
So if people have backflow devices and they're not tested and things like that, and they fail when they shouldn't fail, now all of a sudden you've contaminated your water supply and everyone else's water supply as well. So you think about the health implications of that. If it's a chemical in a mop sink, okay, that's probably not good.
Yeah.
You might be able to be okay with it, but maybe somebody with a compromised immune system, or a child, or an elderly person, that's a life-changing event.
Definitely. And you've got natural gas running to all this equipment as well.
Absolutely.
That's a whole nother.
Natural gas, yeah. We do and you'll know, when you just look at the heat exchanger you've got there, when you install a natural gas system, and this is one of the things that when I teach the plumbing code, or when we teach the plumbing code to our plumbers and that, they understand they can walk into a mechanic room and find out exactly how much combustion air they need, and they understand what happens if they don't have enough combustion air, what happens to the building occupants or the space occupants. What are the products of combustion if you have incomplete combustion and things like that. So no, it's huge, and every aspect of there's a convenience aspect because you want to make sure you're getting enough water, and there's convenience, you want to make sure that all your everything's firing the way it's supposed to fire. But again, to your point with the natural gas, if you have an improperly connected natural gas system, you have incomplete combustion, you're creating carbon monoxide, you're creating a whole litany of issues that are really going to impact a building occupant. And that's the other thing that we really try to instill in all of our apprentices, and that is that when you go onto a job, you're the subject matter expert. People are going to look at you as the person who's going to have the answers. So you want to make sure that you're confident and that you have the right answers. And that's ultimately our goal at the training center is to make sure that when the guys and gals finish our program or take any course with us, they walk away with the right answers and with that confidence.
So what does life look like for an apprentice? I mean, how long are they in that program? How much training is it that they're going through?
Well, they'll start out as a first-year provisional apprentice for the first year. It's a 5-year program, and it's going to take a total of 10,000 hours to get through that program. And they're doing 126 hours a semester, every semester for 10 semesters, and there's a progression. They'll do a theoretical class, then they'll do a practical class in theory and practical. So every class should build on what they've previously learned. So at the end of the 5 years, and during that time, working for a contractor 40 hours a week, either in a service capacity or new construction. The bulk of our work, is new construction. But we're definitely expanding into the service and repair arena as well. So typical first-year apprentice, he's going to show up at the job. He's going to be doing a lot of moving pipe. He's going to be doing a lot of unloading things. He's going to be doing a lot of cleaning and a lot of grunt work.
Sure.
Right now I currently teach all the first years that are coming through. And one of the things that I really work with the first years on, is the life skills, the soft skills. How do I get along? And that's one of the things that we teach as well. How do I get along as part of a team? How do I set goals? How do I, try and drive towards goals and stay positive? And just have them take ownership of their apprenticeship careers. Because it's very selective to get into the program. So once you're in the program, we want the guys and gals who are in there to be successful. So the jobs can be fast-paced, and they can be hot, and they can be dirty, and they can be noisy, and they can be dangerous. So our big thing is to making sure that everyone stays safe and is productive and is growing. And that's our biggest thing. So that if you took a person when they first came into the program, and then took that same person in 5 years, there should be a pretty stark difference in what they've learned and how they've grown. So
that's awesome.
So
would you say the majority of your apprentices are coming straight out of high school, or kind of moving into this after doing other careers? Or
I think the majority moving into it after a few years. I think the average age of a first-year apprentice nationwide is 27.
Oh wow!
So that's almost a decade post high school of of work experience and education and life experience in that. So I think a lot of people realize, later in life that, having a craft, having that license in your pocket, regardless whether it's plumbing or electrician or welder, I mean, that's really going to make a difference and at least give them, something to fall back on through the rest of their lives. So.
Yeah, I mean, that takes some serious dedication to go through a program like that. I mean, to work full time and take the classes.
Yes.
So, I mean, they have to be mentally and physically prepared to go through that. But like you said, I think it's one of those things that's very rewarding once they're done. And, I think it's great as well that you're not just teaching them the skills to do the job, but also giving them the tools to be successful later on. So what kind of things are you doing to teach that leadership or some of those other soft skills?
Well, one of the things that we'll do, like in the first year, we'll go through a pretty thorough orientation, and one of their assignments in their first 2 weeks in my class is a 500-word essay on what do I need to do to be successful. And what I ask them to do when they're doing this essay is look into themselves and find out, what are the things that I react to in maybe a way that's not the most helpful for me or the most positive, that doesn't build a team up, that doesn't set me up for success. So I asked them just to kind of do that self-inventory and then write down, these are the things that I need to work on. And if I can work on these things and get better at them, and it's never going to be an overnight change, but if it's a soft skill of, making sure that I go to bed at a decent time so I can get up, making sure that I eat right, making sure that I'm hydrating, making sure that I'm not, abusing alcohol or drugs or anything like that, so that every day when I show up to work, I'm ready to work and I have a positive attitude, and learning how to deal with criticism. A lot of folks, don't like criticism. They don't accept it they don't, and a lot of times, sometimes the way criticism is delivered to especially on construction sites, because a lot of it's fast paced and it's rough, and things like that. So a lot of guys are like, I don't like the way that person spoke to me. So now all of a sudden, that's completely changed the trajectory of that day. And it's planted a seed that maybe this isn't for them. And one of the things I really try to work with the guys and gals on is, everything's relative. It's none of it's ever personal, or it should never be personal. And there's always a way to work through it. So in a positive way. So especially as a first or second year apprentice, you're definitely the low person on the totem pole. So you might feel that you that you don't have much of a voice. And I think part of that too is you don't really have much of a voice, and letting them know this is just life, guys. And it's about being a little bit humble, and and accepting correction and accepting direction and doing it with a smile. And if you can do that as a first and second year apprentice, by the time you get to be a journeyman or a master or a project manager, then all of a sudden you've built not necessarily a thick skin, but you've built
some discipline,
some self-discipline, how you look at things, and you'll be successful. And that's the biggest thing for us is, we just want them to, to look at, 5 years. Where do I want to be in 5 years? What do I need to do, in my life right now in this apprenticeship? What changes can I make, to be where I want to be in 5 years? Now we've already got it's already a built-in goal because it's a 5-year apprenticeship, so it's pretty easy to stay on that trajectory. We've already, kind of opened the road up for them. All they have to do is stay on that road. But, life happens, and sometimes they might be unemployed for a little bit, or maybe there's somebody gets sick in their family, and things, or they, get injured and things like that. So how do you stay, focused on completing your task and understanding how valuable it is to complete that? So just trying to keep them motivated in that. So I think the beauty part too for us is, if they, stay in our program, we've got them for 5 years, and that's 5 years to build relationships. So they build relationships with their peers and with their instructors and with the leadership team at the school. And that's, so then they can look at us as, for a little bit of mentoring anyway. So.
And the relationship doesn't end there, right? I mean, that after they're done with that apprenticeship, become a journeyman, what's the involvement after that?
They come back every year at a minimum for continuing education. But we also have journeyman level training. So we're really, stressed to our journeyman workers, just to be lifelong learners. But again, it's a sacrifice because they have to take time off of their family time. Not necessarily their work time, but they're taking time off their family time. But they also see as the industry changes and evolves, and that they need to continue educating, continually be lifelong learners. Just to make sure that they're the most marketable they can be. So,
Yeah, and they have a lot of potential options for careers as well, right? I mean,
oh, absolutely.
They can go into the new construction like you were talking about,
Yep.
the supervisor roles, but they also have the opportunity to go and even potentially start their own business.
Absolutely. So, a journeyman plumber these days can go out after you've completed our registered apprenticeship program. If you work for a year, you can get your master license. You can sit with the state board of plumbing examiners and get your master license, and then you can open up your own business. So I mean, and that's huge. And I know a lot of in some areas of our jurisdiction, like Beaumont, a lot of plumbers have done that, and the union supports them. And there's a program called Plumbers 911, and it's a huge backstop and a support for the folks that are wanting to start their own business. I know next month there's going to be a new business information seminar at the Union Hall for 2 days for people that are interested in starting a new business. Like, what do I have to do? How do I get financing? What do I need to do with about insurance? What do I need to do about and all these things that people, when you're thinking as a plumber, not as a businessman, they're not going to think about. So this is kind of a hand on the shoulder way to say these are the things you need to look at, and if it's something you think you and your family want to do, then we're here to encourage you and support you and
That's
help,
a great
help you along
resource.
the way.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think it's huge. But a lot of folks don't want that. They're absolutely happy.
It's a lot of
being,
risk,
happy being
potentially,
plumbers.
so, yeah.
Yeah. So they will say, like, I just want to be the best plumber I can be. But when it's 110 degrees in Houston, you might not want to be in the ground doing the ground job. So you can say, how do I be a project manager? So one of the things that I've worked on this last year is basically a template of all the different career avenues, career pathways that are in the plumbing industry, and it's project management. So how do I be a project manager? What classes do I need to take? What if I want to be an inspector? City inspector, or work for one of the hospitals as an inspector. How do I do that? If I want to be a draftsman, an AutoCAD detailer, how do I go about doing that? So if I want to be a service plumber, how do I go about doing that? Because a lot of guys, if you're in construction, service is a completely different entity, and you've not,
Yep.
You don't have any experience with it. So how do I get that experience? So, and again, that's the service repair course that your team was a part of last year, or last fall is phenomenal for that. And we're going to be doing another one in the springtime here. So, and these are kind of ongoing trainings that any journeyman can step into. Just call us up and say, I want to register for this course, and they can step into the next available course, and then walk away, with another skill set they can put on their resume. So yeah, no, as far as opportunities for growth in our industry, it's huge.
Yeah.
So.
And I think there's a lot of emphasis today on you have to go to college in order to be successful in life, and I think there's a lot of other avenues to success outside of a 4-year college, and what you're describing, being able to get these guys in and gals in and teach them about the skills and the trade,
Yep.
but also being able to set them up to be successful beyond that,
Yep.
Is a great alternative to a traditional 4-year school that maybe a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the things that I stress with our apprentices as well is, saying I'm going to be a plumber and walk through this apprenticeship doesn't mean that I can never finish off a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or anything
Sure.
like that. So that's one of the things that, if the person is academically inclined that way, I absolutely encourage them. And we offer scholarships at the Union Hall for that, as well as we have relationships with different community colleges and those credits to finish off a degree in construction management, and then those credits can transfer to different 4-year universities. So a lot of people will take advantage of that as well.
Sure.
But it's a phenomenal way to to finish off a degree. And that's what I tell my kids, my sons anyway, that are interested in plumbing. I say, if you want to get your plumbing license and you start young, even if you start later in life, you can just take 1 or 2 classes at a time, and you'll still finish off your degree, and you'll have just a great resume, because you'll have a master plumber license or a journeyman plumber license and all your certifications, and a bachelor's degree in construction management or an associate degree, whatever you want to pursue. So yeah, lifelong learning from my perspective, is not just going to be within the bubble of plumbing or pipe fitting or anything like that, but that's really a good launch pad to go into another direction too, where all the skills you've learned as throughout your plumbing apprenticeship are going to set you up for success in other arenas as well. So you can you can range your radar scope as far as you want to, or tighten it as tight as you want to, and still be successful. It's really just up to the person. So.
Yep. No, I think that's a great program that y'all are doing to offer that. So how is it that you're kind of keeping up with the latest trends or changes in our industry, and how are you passing that on to your members?
So our contractors are all part of the Mechanical Contract Association of America, and the ones in Texas are MCAT. So they're obviously on the leading edge of innovations and things that are happening in our industry. For those of us at the Training Center, our instructors are all subject matter experts and project managers and that in their fields and that as well. So they're being exposed to the latest and greatest technology and changes. An example of that would be migrating from like we teach AutoCAD as part of our curriculum. Now we're starting to pivot from the AutoCAD and go into Bluebeam and Revit and that, because that's what the guys are using on the jobs. And it seems to be more effective use of our training time and dollars to get them to start focusing on the Revit versus the AutoCAD, because is AutoCAD important? Absolutely, but a much smaller number of our apprentices are going to turn into detailers. But a good number of them, the bulk of them, are going to be job foremen and superintendents, where Bluebeam and Revit are really, really important to their success. So, and then like from the leadership team at the Training Center, we are part of different trade associations. Like I'm part of the American Society of Sanitary Engineering, and I sit on the Plumbers. The Plumbers Service and Repair Steering Committee. So I'm part of that committee for that too. So and they meet biannually, and they talk about what's going on in the world of service and repair, and they bring in guest speakers, and we're part of IAPMO as well, which is an industry leader as far as code development and what's going on in the industry and that. So we try to stay abreast of everything that's changing, without jumping onto every change that comes along, because that can get expensive in that too. So
yeah. And to what you were talking about earlier, having these guys that have gone out, become experts out in the field, and then kind of coming back, getting more education or going into office roles that what they've learned, that field experience becomes very valuable coming back into the office and into the training facility. So only adds to kind of the value of what you're doing.
Absolutely. It's invaluable. If you're started as a first-year apprentice plumber and you work your way up to be a project manager on a project, that you'll never forget what it felt like to be a first-year apprentice. So now all of a sudden you have that empathy and you have that understanding of things don't always work the way you want them to, but you hopefully have developed a lot of problem-solving skills along the way. So you can circle back and say, look, this is one solution, hopeful solution to this problem that we're running into right now, because a lot of the job of a project manager in keeping the project on track is to solve problems and to solve them quickly and to make a decision and to work through that decision. So having that 5 years or 10 years of experience like in the field is invaluable. When I first started in the industry, most of the general contractors were all actually carpenters. So they had that carpentry pedigree, where they'd seen every aspect of every job, and you could see it in how effective they were at managing projects and processes and that as well. They didn't get rattled too often, and they could always come up with a pretty quick and clever solution to any problem that we were as a mechanical team we were in. And those, but again, it was born by the fact that they had 20 years experience, swinging a
actually
hammer.
doing it. Sure.
Exactly, doing it. So yeah.
And so, what would you say to anybody that's thinking about becoming a plumber or looking at going into the apprenticeship program, in terms of your advice to them, or maybe even who would you say would be the ideal candidate for somebody to come in through the program?
I think there's no ideal candidate. If you're physically able to do the job, I think one of the advice I would give would be to talk to somebody who has actually gone through it, who is a plumber, and see what the day-to-day job is. I mean, you might be working at heights, you can be working outside in the elements. A lot of people might not want to work outside in the elements. They might not want to work at heights. But if you like work with your hands and you don't mind being outside, or if you enjoy being outside even better, and you're an active person, you like problem solving, then having a craft, especially the plumbing trade, you'll never go wrong. I would say just start an apprenticeship, and it's gonna, for me, and I'll speak for myself and the plumbers that I know, it's been nothing but a blessing to our lives and to our families. It's something that no one can ever take away. You can never. We're always going to need plumbers, and that skill set's never going to be not in demand. But I would say, just to be successful with it, is to do research and say, is this something that I can see myself doing, in minus 40. I don't know, we're not going to get minus 40 here, but can I do it in minus 40?
I think here we're more worried about what's happening over 100 degrees,
exactly.
not on the negative side.
And and that's one of the things too. Can I do this in 110 degrees day in, day out, for a few years? And if that's not an issue, and again, we're obviously very safe. We want to make sure people are hydrated
Sure.
and everything like that. But I would say I don't see a downside to it.
Well, not to mention they can make good money too.
You can make a lot of money. You can have a great career. Really, there's no limit to how successful you can be. It's really just limited by you. So, and again, it's going to be, if people have a positive attitude and they're willing to work and they're willing to learn, and when they finish their apprenticeship, they pat themselves on the back and say, okay, what's next? Then they're going to be successful. I mean, I know a lot of plumbers who do really, really, really well, and they don't have a 4-year degree. They've got, they went through an apprenticeship program, and they've worked hard, and they've stayed focused, and they've made good decisions. So.
Yep, we know a lot of very successful plumbers, definitely. So.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's one of the reasons that we're such a big supporter, is that we've seen the product that from the training and from the local 68, and we know that you guys are working hard with these guys and giving them the opportunity to have a good career and to do good work. So.
No, absolutely. I don't, and that's one thing. Like for myself, I moved down to Texas, almost 20 years ago from Canada. I was a plumber in Canada, so I got to transfer that same license, and the skill set wasn't quite the same, but I got up to speed fairly quickly.
Was it hard to switch from the metric system?
Yeah, it is actually a little bit, because I never really worked with fractions before. So that was.
I hate fractions, so I would definitely prefer the metric system.
The metric system's good. I think we need to get over there as quick as we can.
It wouldn't bother me, to be honest. I used to hang TVs and do theater install stuff like that, and I ended up buying a metric tape measure because I was so bad at fractions. Mental math and me don't get along very well, so
no,
I could not have done that.
The metric system is a great equalizer. And you think about, you look at a plumber, a lot of your formulas are the basic trig functions. How do I run an offset? So if you have to do that so you can't do it in fractions. You have to convert your fractions to decimals, and then do your math and kind of roll it back into fractions and things like that. So.
And I always love going on a job site and seeing that scribbled on the wall or on a box or something like that. I can't believe the math they're able to do on the fly like that. I wouldn't have been able to pass that class. I don't think so.
Yeah, I think, we go over, it's repetition, repetition, repetition. So no, I love the metric system, but I can work in other system, and I teach the U.S. equivalency system. So
nice. So we're glad to have you down here in the States. So
I appreciate it. Glad this is home. So yeah.
Cool. So what would you say separates Local 68 from other unions or apprenticeship programs, or what makes y'all a little bit different?
Well, I mean, for the Houston area plumbing, we're the oldest straight line plumbing local we're the oldest registered apprenticeship program in Texas, and we're the only straight line plumbing local in Texas. So we just teach plumbing. It's since 1938 we've been a registered apprenticeship program. So that's 81 years, 82 years.
I told you I'm not good at mental math.
82 years. All right. So
I can't do that for you.
82 years ago, people walk through the doors, different doors, but people walk through the doors to learn the plumbing trade. So, and it's never stopped, for the last 82 years. So I think in 82 years, just a lot of really, really important lessons have been learned, a lot of pride's been built, and we also listen to what do the contractors want. We as a training center about a year and a half ago achieved accreditation through the Council on Occupational Education. So that's an offshoot of SACS, which is a federal accrediting body. So, we're the first, probably one of the first 5 or 6 UA locals, which United Association locals, in North America to achieve accreditation, because it's a lot of work to get there. And what accreditation does for us is, and we're the only one in Texas, so it's a benchmark. We're doing absolutely everything we can do. We're operating at a high level. So and that's, we're obviously meeting our obligations in the Department of Labor, but also the Department of Education mandates what the accreditation standards are as well. So we as a team, as a training center, are always working to be the best we can be. So, and there's a pride in that too. We want to know that all of our members who contribute, every hour they work, they contribute a fund to support the school, that their dollars are getting put to good use. I mean, because they have to work hard to earn that money to go into our school. We want to make sure that we are absolutely trying to put out the best product we can, and our product is plumbers. So yeah, so I think that brings with it a fair bit of pride. We obviously sometimes have growing pains, and always everyone's trying to look around the next corner and say what's coming, and we try to do that. We try to operate within a strategic plan and say, okay, these are where this is where the industry is going, and we have meetings with the contractors. As part of our accreditation, every quarter we have to have a sit-down meeting with the contractors, and these are the ones, the guys that are employing our members, our apprentices, and saying, what are we doing well, what are we not doing so well, and what would you like to see us training that maybe we're not doing right now. So we take that information and we try and retool. It's a slow retooling, but we try and retool all the time and get better and more effective at what we do. Yeah. So yeah,
and I would agree. You do have a good product.
Yeah, and thank you. Yeah,
and it's not just in Houston that you're serving, correct? I mean, it's essentially the Gulf Coast of Texas.
It's the Gulf Coast. We have a huge jurisdiction. I think it's 62 counties. We've got a satellite center. We call them instructional service centers in Beaumont, and Beaumont's another really growing market. So we have apprentices and journey workers in Beaumont. We also, in Corpus Christi as well, have a large instructional service center down there as well. So, and actually this year we're graduating our first apprentices from the Corpus Christi Training Center who've gone through the 5-year apprenticeship program down there too. So
awesome.
This June we're going to have a graduation ceremony for them. So it's kind of a milestone.
Yeah.
So yeah, but no, as far as Plumbers Local 68, they're always looking to grow and improve. Just to circle back on should somebody, why should somebody become a plumber's apprentice? Again, there's no downside. All I see is an upside. If you're willing to work hard, if you're willing to, take direction, and you want a career as a plumber, and you're ambitious and you're, goal oriented and you like work with your hands, I think it's phenomenal. I wish
it's definitely a good career option.
Absolutely, and I wish we could bring in, one of the hardest parts about my job is when we do applicant interviews, knowing that there's so many good applicants who we weren't able to give a seat to because of, because we are constrained. I mean, we have a lot of applicants for a very limited, number of spaces, and that's probably the one drawback. That's one of the things that I kind of take it to heart a little bit. Like, how can we grow, and how can we have more good people wanting to be plumbing apprentices actually achieve that. So that's one of the. But I have a soft heart too. So.
Well, it sounds like yourself and the rest of the leadership team over there is listening to that and working towards improving the program. So imagine at some point you're going to be able to find a fix for that problem.
Yeah, it's one of those things. We have a ton of people that make application that want to be plumbers, plumbing apprentices that are qualified and would probably do a phenomenal job. But it's always market driven. We can only take in what we can, because part of apprenticeship is learning and schoolwork as well as being employed, and if we want to make sure we can fulfill both those roles. So yeah, so that's what always limits it. So
gotcha. Well, that's all we have for our show today. And Sid, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, and definitely we appreciate your service to HAPJAC as well as to the Navy. So thank you for that. Also want to thank everyone for watching the show today, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Building Value.